All right, this lesson, what we want to look at is graphing equations of lines. So we're going to be dealing with lines here. You will not have exponents that are greater than 1. That's one of the ways that we look at lines is you have a y equals an x in some form. Things may be multiplied or added to it, but you're just going to have a y and an x. So one of the more common forms that we understand is slope and intercept form. Now, when we talk about slope-intercept form, y is all by itself. And that's how I recognize that I'm in slope-intercept form. Okay. Now, what I have is my coefficient. Okay, coefficient again, number in front of x. That again, you notice the m from the previous lesson when we talked about slope. Okay, that's your slope of your line. Okay, and then we also have what's called my y-intercept. Okay, y-intercept is your constant, the part without the variable. That's our b is the normal variable we're used to seeing that with. Okay, so what it is, it's your value of y when x equals 0. So you got to remember, one, your vertical axis is your y-axis. So it's going to be a point on that y-axis. Okay, so number one, we have to identify what is m and what is b. Okay, so constant is my b. Okay, coefficient is my m. Okay, now, just because the -2 is first does not make it my slope. I could very easily write this equation this way. And so you got to be very careful because it's a common mistake. M again is still the coefficient, still the part with the x. Your y-intercept is the constant. Okay. So how I'm going to graph this is number one, graph my b. Okay. So I'm going to go to 3. So I start at my origin and I just go up 3. There's 1 point. Okay. Second thing I want to do is I want to make m into a fraction. Because if you remember, slope again is your change in y over your change in x. So I'm going to make that -2 as -2 over 1. Okay. Slope again, how many were going up and down? Y change. Over how many were going left and right? X change. So here's another reason why when I have fractions, I put that negative with the numerator because now that's going to be part of that number. So I know which one's a negative. So my y change here is a -2. So again, that's from my y-intercept. Okay, so from my y-intercept, I'm going to go -2 in the y direction, which means I'm going to go 2 steps down. Negative y direction is down. And then I'm going to go 1 in the x direction. Once I have 2 points, I connect them, there's my line. Okay, pretty simple process. Okay. Pause the video. Try this one. Okay. All right, so again, what I did was I first identified my m and my b, my slope again, coefficient of x, so 2/3, my y-intercept, the constant, so the -7 sign goes with it. Plotted my -7, because again, this is your y-axis. Okay. Then I use my slope. Again, top number is your y change. So I'm going to go up or down. So it's a +2, that's why I went up 2. Your bottom number is your x change, that's why I went to the right 3. Once we get those 2 points, we can then connect them and have our line. All right, another form you're going to see equations come in is what we call standard form. Okay, standard form is where I have all my variable stuff on one side. Okay, so my variables are on this side, equal to your constants or your non-variables. Okay, so we'll talk about a lot of times ax plus by equals c. Okay, alphabetical, a, b, c. Okay, the a and the b with the variables, x and y. Okay, so we'll go that way with it. Now, a, b, and c, one of the rules that we kind of have in standard form is that they need to be integers, meaning no fractions, no decimals. And what we would like to have is that first term be positive. Okay, so you generally won't see it as a -2x plus 3y. Okay, If it is, a lot of times we can multiply through by a negative. So when I get an equation in standard form, and how I know it's linear is because, again, I get an x and a y, okay, and the exponents I have are first. Okay, that's how I know we're linear. But we want to try and use a method called the intercepts method. What we're talking about is finding my x-intercept and finding my y-intercept. Okay, here's what I kind of like to tell people to do. I tell them, write your equation twice. Okay, because what I'm going to do is to find my y-intercept. If I think of this line right here, there's your y-axis. If I pick any points on this y-axis, your x value is always 0. Okay, so anytime I'm on the y-axis, my x value is going to be 0. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug that 0 in for x and find out what the y value is. So why I write it twice? Because in one case, if I plug in 0, 2 times 0 is 0, it's gone. And now it's a pretty simple solve for y. I get y equals -2. There's my y-intercept. Same way, if I want to look at my x-axis here, if I look at points on my x-axis, and the thing that's always the same there is my y values are always going to be 0. Okay, so in the same way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let y equal 0. So that's why I have my second equation, because then what I'll do is I'll take -3 times 0 is gone. So I can just cross off that y junk, divide both sides by 2, and we're set. Now, as you get better with these, let me get this other point on there, 3, 0, and now I can connect. There's my line. As you get better with these, one of the things that a lot of times happens is you're able to just talk about, hey, I'm just going to cross or put my finger over the x stuff, okay? Or eventually what we can do is talk about putting my finger over the y stuff and just solve for what's left. Okay, so it can get pretty easy once you get the idea of using your intercepts method. Same way, take a minute, okay, pause the video, find your intercepts. All right, so what I did again was I started out with the idea of finding my y-intercept by letting my x chunk go to 0. So I cross it off. And this one really easy to solve, y equals 8. Went to the idea of finding my x-intercept. Okay, so I let y be 0, divided both sides by 4. Get my 2 points and go. All right, now what we get into trouble with, again, is the horizontal and vertical lines, like I mentioned in the slope one. Horizontal lines, again, 0 slope. Okay, what's going on is that you have a situation where it's y equal to something. Okay, now slope-intercept form. We found my y-intercept, use my slope to get a second point. Standard form, found my x-intercept, found my y-intercept, found 2 points. I like to do the same thing. Okay. Now, they're saying that y equals 3. Okay. Y equals 3. Y has to be 3. Okay. I don't care what I plug in for x because there's no x to deal with there. So y has to be 3. So I can pick anything I want for x. I could pick 0. I could pick 1,321,000. I could pick pi. Any one of those will work. And I could pick 1. Now in general what I'm going to do is whichever variable that I'm told it has to be equal to this. So in this case, y has to be equal to 3. I'm just going to use 0 and 1 for the other one. So I got 0, 3, which I can plot, 1, 3, which I can plot. And just like the other cases, when I have 2 points, I can draw a line. Okay? These are the situations, like I'm saying, I know they give us issues because we get them mixed up. But your horizontal line, so when you're putting together a note sheet, horizontal line, slope equals 0, okay? Equations, y equals b. The reason I use b is because we're intersecting the axis. So same idea when we get to a vertical line, it's going to be x equals c. Okay, nowhere does it say it's actually equals c, but it's going to be some number. Okay, so if I have x equals -5, same idea. X has to be negative 5. There's no arguing it. There's no way I can change it. I need some y values, 0 and 1. So negative 5, 0, negative 5, 1. Connect your points. All right, good luck with that.